guys. We have a Dagon. Apparently this is what a Dagon is. I have no idea. I don't know. I don't make the rules. But yeah. Apparently that's what it is. So we will see what we discover in this Lovecraftian game. Start the game. Okay, cool. I had no idea. I was like, huh, that sounds really cool. Ooh. Holy ominous. Audio, I feel like that's really loud. I don't know how it is for you guys. Let me know if it's super obnoxious and I'll turn it down. Maybe I need to just turn it down on my headsets. But language English, yes. Okay. Can I? Okay, save and exit. Start. We're jumping straight into it. Okay. It's a faithful interactive adaptation. Woo! Woo! I'm cutting off some of the... I might have to change my camera around because I'm not sure where everything's going to be, but here. I fucking died. What do you mean you fucking died? Don't be fucking dying. Here, maybe we'll put it up here? I don't know. That's how we're doing it. Alright, it's a faithful interactive adaptation of H.P. Lovecraft's work, focused on story and atmosphere. You will not find difficult choices, action sequences, or inventory management here. The movement is limited to progressing through locations along with the plot. Okay, so it's basically like a story game. Okay.
I am writing this under an appreciable mental strain, since by tonight I shall be no more.
During the game, you'll encounter interactive elements. Some of them will allow you to continue your journey. Others reveal interesting facts about the original short story, its historical background, and the author. Some of the trivia is hidden. In order to find these secrets, focus your eyes in and look for the Elder Sign. Okay, so right mouse button. Later, they'll be available in the main menu.
Penniless, and at the end of my supply of the drug which alone makes life endurable, I can bear the torture no longer, and shall cast myself from this garret window into the squalid street below.
Ooh. What's over here? Can I actually move? I don't think I can move from this spot.
Do not think from my slavery to morphine that I am a weakling or a degenerate.
Okay, well, what are you then?
When you have read these hastily scrawled pages,
Rip.
you may guess, though never fully realize, why it is that I must have forgetfulness or death.
Morphine entered into use in the 19th century and was routinely administered to treat severe pain during the American Civil War and World War I. It was also sold without restrictions until 1914. Morphine became more popular after the invention of the hypodermic syringe around 1854. Whoever the fuck who first isolated the substance originally named it morphium after Morpheus, the Greek god associated with dreams. That's a cool. I didn't realize that. I didn't realize that connection to morphine to Morpheus. At the time when Dagon was published, morphine abuse, known as soldier's disease, already posed a big problem in the United States. That is true. That is 100% true. Along with morphine, actually, interesting fact, they also gave the soldiers LSD. I guess it's not really LSD. It was basically like Molly, to basically treat them for like super soldiers. They liked the psychoactive effects of tripping balls and were trying to give it to soldiers to basically make them less human. It's very interesting to actually go into the history of a lot of these drugs. Most of them were made for the military use.
It was in one of the most open and least frequented parts of the broad Pacific that the packet of which I was supercargo fell a victim to the German sea raider.
Anything I'm missing over here? What's this? Lovecraft and the Great War. I think it was written around a month after the United States entered World War One. Lovecraft was actively interested in his course. He composed many poems in which he gave encouragement to soldiers and commented on the events unfolding in Europe. He tried to enlist in the army, which he mentions in one of the letters to Reinhard Kleiner. Some time ago, impressed by my entire uselessness in the world, I resolved to attempt enlistment despite my almost invalid condition. I argued that if I chose a regiment soon to depart for France, my sheer nervous force, which is not inconsiderable, must sustain me till a bullet or piece of shrapnel could more conclusively and effectively dispose of me. Even though he passed the physical exam, his mother prevented him from going to the war. Well, honestly, maybe he should have. He was a fucking asshole. I think this is the same guy who, like, named his cat the N-word. Yeah. She threatened to go to any lengths, legal or otherwise, if I did not reveal all of these ills which unfit me for the army. I am Province, the life and times of H.P. Lovecraft. Interesting. I like that this gives me a bunch of, like, historically...
The Great War was then at its very beginning, and the ocean forces of the Hun had not completely sunk to their later degradation, so that our vessel was made a legitimate prize, whilst we of her crew were treated with all the fairness and consideration due us as naval prisoners.
The Huns were Central Asian nomads who established a domination in Europe and invaded the Roman Empire. In the 5th century AD, they were known as brutal, deadly warriors and masters of quick raids, who also developed powerful... they made the composite bow? Lassos, and early siege. I didn't realize that they actually developed the composite bow. That's really cool. During World War I, the British used the word Hun as a synonym for Germans in order to emphasize their brutality. However, the term originated when the German Emperor Wilhelm II gave a speech to his troops on the 27th July. Should you encounter the enemy, he will be defeated. No quarter will be given. Prisoners will not be taken. Whoever falls into your hands is forfeited. Just as 1,000 years ago, the Huns, under their king Altilda, made a name for themselves, one that even today makes them seem mighty in history and legend. May the name German be affirmed through such a way in China that no Chinese will ever again dare to look across eyed at a German. Interesting. This is to continue the story. I like that they have like little historic notes. I do like that.
Indeed was the discipline of our captors that 5 days after we were taken, I managed to escape alone in a small boat with water and provisions for a good length of time. When I finally found myself adrift and free, I had but little idea of my surroundings. Never a competent navigator,
are we alone in the
I could only
ocean?
guess
Oh
vaguely
God.
by the sun and stars that I was somewhat south of the equator.
Ooh.
Of the longitude, I knew nothing, and no island or coastline was in sight.
Boy, what am I missing here? Oh, there we go. There's the moon.
The weather kept fair, and for uncounted days I drifted aimlessly beneath the scorching sun, waiting either for some passing ship or to be cast on the shores of some habitable land.
Honestly, this is like my worst nightmare of being on the ocean, being stranded like this. Like, this is honestly, I can't even imagine. I would literally
But
lose
neither
my
ship
shit.
nor land appeared, and I began to despair in my solitude upon the heaving vastness of unbroken blue.
It's really pretty though.
The change happened whilst I slept. Its details I shall never know.
Ooh, the
For
music.
my slumber, though troubled and dream-infested, was continuous. When at last I awoke, it was to discover myself half sucked into a slimy expanse of hellish black mire, which extended about me in monotonous undulations as far as I could see,
Hentai.
and in which my boat lay grounded some distance away. Though one might well imagine that my first sensation would be of wonder at so prodigious and unexpected a transformation of scenery, I was in reality more horrified than astonished. For there was in the air, and in the rotting soil, a sinister quality which chilled me to the very core. The region was putrid with the carcasses of decaying fish, and of other, less describable things which I saw protruding from the nasty mud of the unending
How did we
plain.
float into the sky? Ooh. And there's another one out there.
Perhaps I should not hope to convey in mere words the unutterable hideousness that can dwell in absolute silence and barren immensity. There was
Yeah, for
nothing
real,
within
though.
hearing and nothing in sight save a vast reach of black slime.
Ooh.
Yet the very completeness of the stillness and the homogeneity of the landscape oppressed me with a nauseating fear. The sun was blazing down from a sky which seemed to me almost black in its cloudless cruelty, as though reflecting the inky marsh beneath my feet.
Oh, I don't like that sound.
As I crawled into the stranded boat, I realized that only one theory could explain my position.
Yeah, for real though.
Through some unprecedented volcanic upheaval, a portion of the ocean floor must have been thrown to the surface, exposing regions for which innumerable millions of years had lain hidden under unfathomable watery depths.
Oh, what is moving?
So great was the extent of the new land which had risen beneath me that I could not detect the faintest noise of the surging ocean, straining my ears as I might. Nor were there any seafowl to prey upon the dead things. For several hours I sat thinking or brooding in the boat, which lay upon its side and afforded a slight shade as the sun moved across the heavens. As the day progressed, the ground
Those are
lost some
old
of
as
its
fuck,
stickiness
by the way.
and seemed likely to dry sufficiently for traveling purposes in a short time. That night I slept but little, and the next day I made for myself a pack containing food and water, preparatory to an overland journey in search of the vanished sea and possible rescue.
He said he named his cat the N-word. One of his gods is literally named. Yeah. Yeah. He did though. He literally did. He was known to be a blatant racist. But I don't know. I got like a lot of flack the last HP Lovecraft game that I ended up playing through. This is definitely more like a story sequence. But I was like, guys, I understand. He was a terrible person, but you also got to realize he was born in the 1800s. Okay, this was what most of them thought. And I could despise the actions of the person, yet still hey, that's a piece of art, you know.
Morning, I found the
I
soil
can still
dry enough to
appreciate the
walk
art
upon with
that
ease.
he made.
The odor of the fish was maddening.
It's
but
kind
I was
of like
too much
the
concerned with graver things to mind so slight an evil, and set
yeah,
out
he
boldly
made some
for
really
an
cool myth
unknown
and lore,
goal.
even if he's a total piece of shit. Yeah, exactly. Well, that's kind of like Gary Gygax. Gary Gygax, the creator of Dungeons and Dragons, complete and utter sexist. Like, he hates women, and the fact that women even play in a role-playing setting, honestly, just, I guess Earl Gygax, his son, said something about it recently, about how he didn't like that there was trans and women and all of these people like playing tabletop role-playing games. Like, it's like, you can hate the person who created it but still love the fandom, if that makes any sense. Like, I don't give a shit. I'm gonna continue to play D&D because it's fucking fun, and Gary Gygax can shove it. Just saying.
All day I forged steadily westward, guided by a faraway hummock which rose higher than any other elevation on the rolling desert.
This is fucking gross, dude. Is this like this? Is this like the book? Is this what we're experiencing? Like the book? Oh, I don't like the sounds.
That night I encamped, and on the following day still travelled toward the hummock, though that object seemed scarcely nearer than when I had first espied it. By the fourth evening, I attained the base of the mound, which turned out to be much higher than it had appeared from a distance.
I'm literally
An
getting
intervening valley
goosebumps.
setting it out in sharper relief from the general surface. Too weary to ascend, I slept in the shadow of the hill.
What is that? Do you guys see that glimmering?
I know not why my dreams were so wild that night, but ere the waning and fantastically gibbous moon had risen far above the eastern plain, I was awake in a cold perspiration, determined to sleep no more. Such visions as I had experienced were too much for me to endure again, and in the glow of the moon I saw how unwise I had been to travel by day. Without the glare of the parching sun, my journey would have cost me less energy. Indeed, I now felt quite able to perform the ascent which had deterred me at sunset. Picking up my pack, I started for the crest of the eminence.
Isn't this the mound that was like moving in the distance? Ugh.
I have said that the
No, there was a
monotony of
thingy.
the rolling plain was a source of vague horror to me.
I missed a
But I think
piece
my
of
horror was
lore.
greater when I gained the summit of the mound and looked down the other side into an immeasurable pit or canyon, whose black recesses the moon had not yet soared high enough to illumine. I felt myself on the edge of the world, peering over the rim into a fathomless chaos of eternal night.
Ooh.
Through my terror ran curious reminiscences of Paradise Lost, and of Satan's hideous climb through the unfashioned realms of darkness. As the moon climbed higher in the sky, I began to see that the slopes of the valley were not quite so perpendicular as I had imagined. Ledges and outcroppings of rock afforded fairly easy footholds for a descent, whilst after a drop of only a few hundred feet, the declivity became very gradual.
Anything I'm missing? No? Okay. We can continue since I've missed that piece of
Urged on by
history.
an impulse which I cannot definitely analyze, I scrambled with difficulty down the rocks and stood on the gentler slope beneath.
Honestly, this is really pretty.
Gazing into the Stygian deeps, where no light
Ooh.
had yet penetrated. All at once, my attention was captured by a vast and singular object on the opposite slope, which rose steeply about 100 yards ahead of me. An object that gleamed whitely in the newly bestowed rays of the ascending moon. That it was merely a gigantic piece of stone, I soon assured myself.
Why is the stone completely
But I was
rectangular?
conscious of a distinct impression that its contour and position were not altogether the work of nature.
There you go, that's what I was thinking.
A closer scrutiny filled me with sensations I cannot express. For despite its enormous magnitude, and its position in an abyss which had yawned at the bottom of the sea since the world was young, I perceived beyond a doubt that the strange object was a well-shaped monolith.
Fucking dog water. Dog
whose
water
massive
trash!
had known the workmanship and perhaps the worship of living and thinking creatures. Dazed and frightened, yet not without a certain thrill of the scientist's or archaeologist's delight, I examined my surroundings more closely. The moon, now near the zenith, shone weirdly and vividly above the towering steeps that hemmed in the chasm. revealed the fact that a far-flung body of water flowed at the bottom, winding out of sight in both directions and almost lapping my feet as I stood on the slope. Across the chasm, the wavelets washed the base of the Cyclopean monolith.
Cyclopean. Ooh, I love the freaking words
I
used
could
in
now trace
this.
both inscriptions and crude sculptures. The writing was in a system of hieroglyphics
Cthulhu.
unknown to me and unlike anything I'd ever seen in books.
Cthulhu.
Consisting for the most part of conventionalized aquatic symbols such as fishes, eels, octopi, crustaceans, mollusks, whales, and the like. Several characters obviously represented marine things which are unknown to the modern world.
Yeah, like I said, that
but
one
whose
crustacean,
decomposing
they're
forms I'd
actually
observed on the ocean-risen plain.
like thousands of year old.
It was the pictorial carving, however, that did most to hold me spellbound.
Dagon contains many themes and storytelling methods that Lovecraft developed in his later works, such as telling the story through carvings, The Mountains of Madness and Nameless City, journals and characters' notes, The Shadow of Time, The Haunter of the Dark, islands emerging from the ocean, Call of Cthulhu, or fictional beings and deities based on real events and mythologies. It's also considered the origin of the popular Cthulhu mythos. Some of the Lovecraft's other stories also include, in a manner similar to Dagon, stop it, Potato, you're playing Apex Legends. But let's skip the details in order not to spoil the ending. Yes.
Plainly visible across the intervening water, on account of their enormous size, were an array of bas-reliefs whose subjects would have excited the envy of a doré. I think that these things were supposed to depict men, at least a certain sort of men, though the creatures were shown disporting like fishes in the waters of some marine grotto.
They're mermaids!
Or paying homage at some monolithic shrine, which
Excuse
appeared
me.
to be under the waves as well. Of their faces and forms I dare not speak in detail, for the mere remembrance makes me grow faint.
Ooh, I just got shivers.
Grotesque beyond the imagination of a Poe or a Bulwer.
Ooh.
They were damnably human in general outline, despite webbed hands and feet, shockingly wide and flabby lips,
Flappy lips.
glassy, bulging eyes, and other features less pleasant to recall. Curiously enough, they seem to have been chiseled badly out of proportion with their scenic background. For one of the creatures was shown in the act of killing a whale, represented as but little larger than himself. I remarked, as I say, their grotesqueness and strange size, but in a moment decided that they were merely the imaginary gods of some primitive fishing or seafaring tribe. Some tribe whose last descendant had perished eras before the first ancestor of the Piltdown or Neanderthal man was born. Awestruck at this unexpected glimpse into a past beyond the conception of the most daring anthropologist, I stood musing whilst the moon cast queer reflections on the silent channel before me. Then, suddenly, I saw it. With only a slight churning to mark its rise to the surface, the thing slid into view above the dark waters. Vast, Polyphemus-like and loathsome, it darted like a stupendous monster of nightmares to the monolith, about which it flung its gigantic scaly arms, the while it bowed its hideous head and gave vent to certain measured sounds.
Interesting. That actually kind of scared me, I'm not gonna lie.
Then,
Think you went mad then?
of my frantic ascent of the slope and cliff, and of my delirious journey back to the stranded boat, I remember little. I believe I sang a great deal and laughed oddly when I was unable to sing.
Oh, Oh, the music.
I have indistinct recollections of a great storm sometime after I reached the boat. At any rate, I know that I heard pearls of thunder and other tones which nature utters only in her wildest moods.
Ooh.
When I came out of the shadows, I was in a San Francisco hospital.
Oh,
Brought
no.
thither by the captain of the American ship which had
Achievement
picked up
unlocked.
my boat in mid-ocean. In my delirium, I had said much, but found that my words had been given scant attention.
Anything that I can see? Nope.
Of any land upheaval in the Pacific, my rescuers knew nothing. Nor did I deem it necessary to insist upon a thing which I knew they could not believe.
This guy woke up in a freaking hospital from inside the ocean. Quite literally.
Once I sought out a celebrated ethnologist and amused him with peculiar questions regarding the ancient Philistine legend of Dagon, the fish god.
That's to continue the story. Is there anything? Dagon was the main deity of the Philistines, worshipped throughout the Middle East as the ancient god of fertility and crops. In Hebrew, the word Dagon is commonly known for grain. The rulers of Akkad, Mesopotamia, chose him as the patron saint of their war conquests. He also appeared as the judge of the dead in an Assyrian poem and an underworld prison warder in one of the Babylonian texts. He is often mistakenly taken for a fish god due to the wrong interpretation of his name, as in Hebrew the word dag means fish. In H.P. Lovecraft's works, Dagon is an underwater deity ruling over the deep ones, a humanoid race with fish traits that reside in the oceans. He is worshipped by a secret cult called the Estratic Order of Dagon. So, deep ones. That would explain the D&D gods. The deep
But
ones.
soon perceiving that he was hopelessly conventional, I did not press my inquiries.
You didn't? Why not? What the fuck not? Anything I'm missing? Nope, okay. Oh, there's a bunch of stuff here. Also befriended Lovecraft and published many of his works throughout his company, Arkham House. Although he greatly contributed to the population of author's works, after his death he is surrounded by numerous controversies. One of his most questionable decisions involved introducing the good versus evil doctrine to the Cthulhu mythos, which contrasted with Lovecraft's view of the world and his approach to cosmic horror. As a result, the author's works are often misunderstood and misrepresented in today's culture. It is also worth noting that Lovecraft was never really interested in creating a mythology, and the term Cthulhu mythos was coined by Dearlith after the author left the mortal plane. Lovecraft's attempts to find a job in 1925 were influenced by advice he received from friends. Among others, he started freelancing for a marketing magazine where he would write announcements and commercials. Feel free to judge his copyright skills for yourself. Blah, 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 blah. These days, the word scientist is a widely accepted term, but at the time Dagon was published, it was subject to a wide debate after the author used it in the story. Critics pointed out that the man of science was a more appropriate term to employ. He admitted that if Dagon were to be reprinted, he would indeed use the phrase they suggested. Scientist is coined as to artist, blah, 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 blah. It's gender specific, dictating that science was an endeavor to be pursued by only one sex. The term scientist became more accepted only after World War II, and man of science started fading into absurdity as an old-fashioned synonym. Well, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
It is at night, especially when the moon is gibbous and waning, that I see the thing.
I love that. I love the use of astrology and the moon
morphine,
phases.
But the drug has given only transient surcease, and has drawn me into its clutches as a hopeless slave. So now I am to end it all, having written a full account for the information or the contemptuous amusement of my fellow men.
Hated tobacco, even though he used to smoke when he was 12 in order to look and feel like an adult. His correspondence with friend Reinhardt, he claims that he quit as soon as he started wearing long pants. He also had a very strong opinion about alcohol, as evidenced by his letter to Zela Brown. For the matter of drinking, I have never tasted intoxicating liquor and never intend to, having a strong aesthetic disgust at anything which blunts or coarsens the delicate natural of the evolved human intellect and imagination. Drinking excited my personal repugnance, hence I don't drink. Let the herd do what they will. I am rather in favor of wow. Okay, I didn't know he was into the prohibition. Interesting. A lot of his stories have a lot of like alcohol and substance abuse. Maybe that's why.
Often I ask myself if it could not all have been a pure phantasm, a mere freak of fever, as I lay sun-stricken and raving in the open boat after my escape from the German man of war. This I ask myself, but ever does there come before me a hideously vivid vision in reply. I cannot think of the deep sea without shuddering at the nameless things that may at this very moment be crawling and floundering on its slimy bed, worshipping their ancient stone idols and carving their own detestable likenesses on submarine obelisks of water-soaked granite. I dream of a day when they may rise above the billows to drag down into their reeking talons the remnants of puny, war-exhausted mankind. Of a day when the land shall sink and the dark ocean shall ascend amidst universal pandemonium.
That's honestly terrifying. Can you imagine how big this earth would
The
be
end is near.
if all of the water just evaporated? Oh god. Anything else I need to do? No.
I hear a noise at the door, as of some immense slippery body lumbering against it.
Oh, he's barricaded himself in here. Oh, I have so much goosebumps. I don't like that the door is moving like that.
It shall not find me.
Oh. Jump scare?
God, that hand!
Oh boy.
The window! The window!
I can't move to the window. Oh god. Wow. See, I knew it was going to be really short, but holy crap. I enjoyed that. It's a very weird background noise for Apex. Yeah, it would be. I actually did enjoy that. How much did I miss? I'm curious. I'm curious to know how much I missed. That was so freaking short, not even an hour. Yeah. Oh my gosh, there's so much trivia I missed. Oh my goodness, no. What's this stuff? Return to game. I thoroughly enjoyed that though. I like I like story games like that. I don't know. Maybe that's weird. But since that is over, I'm going to go ahead and switch games. I did like that, though. I'll see about getting the DLC. Maybe we'll play through the DLCs another time. But we're going to go ahead and we're probably going to switch to Dead by Daylight. I only have 12 days to get the witch hat skin. And so we might go over there and play some Survivor. But I'm out of coffee. I have the hair on the back of my neck standing.